are excited to be here, and we are excited that we found Felt. So just a little bit about Sharetown. We are a reverse logistics company, and we specialize in big and bulky. So what that really means is, excuse me, we service partners and customers who order something online that is physically too large for them to return themselves. So, you get something from Amazon and you might run it to UPS to facilitate the return. We specialize in things that are just too big for a customer to return themselves. We do a lot of furniture, mattresses, exercise equipment, appliances, anything that is too large for a customer or for their the brand or that partner that they purchase it from to return themselves. So we, excuse me, I need to take a drink. We have hundreds of partners, and we kind of teamed up with them. They were looking for more sustainable options for them. The reverse logistics for them is very expensive. Most people have to hire employees to go pick up the item, they take it back to a warehouse, they ship it back to the original partner. There's a lot of expense and time that's used for that. And Sharetown has just helped all of our partners and their customers with a better sustainability and better options for that return. So we specialize in local returns, and we keep those items locally as well, which helps build local economies. And we're a little bit different than most reverse logistics companies in that respect, that we have thousands of what we call Sharetown representatives. So we'll refer to those as reps, but we have thousands of them across the nation, and we offer nationwide coverage to our collection of partners. And because we have people everywhere, it allows us to maintain that really localized space in that market. Internally, Sharetown has about 20 employees who help manage and assist those Sharetown representatives. So in the beginning, as we were starting to try to figure out how best to manage them, we ran into a lot of issues with just that coverage, like what that coverage looks like for what one of our individual reps is willing to do, and overlaying that with what our partner coverage was and those requests. So that's kind of where we started our mapping search. We have tried lots of different solutions in the past, but one thing that was really important to us was just ease of use. We had, like I said, we had about 20 employees who were needing to use a mapping solution to just visualize everything they were working on. And we didn't really have anybody in this GIS space. That was not our mindset. That wasn't a specialty of any of the employees that we had. So being user-friendly was one of the really important things for us with mapping. We needed to be able to start utilizing it immediately without some of the techie needs that was required for a lot of our other solutions. One of the other problems that we had was integration. We had enormous amounts of data that we were accumulating, and being able to just find an easy way to integrate that into a map to see what we wanted to see was one of the hardest things for us in the beginning. Christine is going to speak a little bit more to that about integration, but with past programs that we had used, it was really hard to manually input that data. So there was not a lot of ease of integration. So we had people spending a lot of time manually inputting and uploading data sets into our maps. But because of the amount of data that we had constant issues with system crashes. We'd have to restart. It wasn't uncommon for us to it would take 5 minutes for a map to load. And we had different sales managers all over the country trying to load different pieces of different maps. And it became really burdensome for us to have to wait for that, and for the inability for those other solutions to just load all of the content and the data that we needed. One specific example of that was zip codes. We had regional managers, so they were over specific states or areas. And with some of the mapping solutions we had in the past, a zip code layer was done on a statewide level for the US. So it would take a long time. It was multiple layers, 50 layers of zip codes, and we would have to wait for them to load. It was hard to see everything on a nationwide level as well as just our regional levels. So that's one thing that that Felt has done really well for us, is just be able to provide existing data layers that are done on a broader scale that have really helped with our use and integration. Again, before we found Felt, our previous mapping solutions weren't really working for us. So we kind of took a step back and tried to just do a data approach. We used a lot of different BI tools to try to give us the data that we needed that way, but we really kind of had to come back to maps in the end because we needed that visual of what we were trying to do. So we tried a lot of different things before we settled on Felt, and it actually has helped us solve a lot of our problems, which has been great. So I'm gonna just go through some of the features that we use. Christina, do you want to kind of start showing the map now?
Sure.
So we'll just kind of go through some use cases. I'm gonna, like I said earlier, I'll turn some time over to Christina and to Samantha to kind of talk through some other things. But from a sales perspective, just wanted to go through some of the things that we were looking for, especially in the beginning. So yeah, do you want to turn on that rep layer? Perfect. So one of the things we love about Felt is our ability to just customize and see what we want to see. So we started with just a rep layer, which is a physical location, again, not on a zip code scale, which has been helpful to be able to pinpoint exactly the location of our reps. And we can, as you see here, this is dummy data for the sake of this webinar, but we have a visual representation of where each rep is physically. And I love the ability to be able to see pertinent information about those reps as well. So if you click on it and it pulls up the rep name, but we have in our system that rep name, we have information about how many pickups they are able to accommodate a week. We have information about the inventory that they have on hand. We can display how many sales are generated in their area. If that rep is in a certain phase of our training program for them. So it's really helpful to be able to visually see everything, but also have access to the information that we need to be able to best support and facilitate the needs of our areas based on those reps. The next thing we started incorporating was our rep coverage layer. So we have reps who generally will cover a 50-mile radius. In the past, with some of our other mapping solutions, it was really, really difficult to do ISO distancing. So we would kind of put in like a 50-mile radius, but it was as the crow flies. So it was just kind of this big circle that would we would be able to shrink or expand beyond that rep, but that wasn't helpful for us in determining how they could, or how long they could literally travel on any existing roads. So we love being able to show the distances and calculations specific to actual routes and roads that our reps can take. So as you can see, kind of these polygons are all different shapes because it is allowing us to take existing infrastructure of roadways to show how long or how far that rep will be able to travel, as opposed to as the crow flies. And we, again, just seeing the visual, we like to have overlapping coverage in all of our areas, and it allows us to kind of see where we have multiple reps, which areas they have coverage for the overlaps, and it helps us to determine where we need to grow or expand our existing rep network. In conjunction with that, this blue layer that you see, these are partner coverage requests, or an example of partner coverage requests. We have hundreds of partners, and they all have different needs. Some of them are a very specific area with very specific needs. On a small scale. So this Felt allows us to integrate what their coverage needs are and overlap it with our existing coverage to make sure that we can accommodate what they have, or to see where we might need to continue to onboard new reps in the future. And Samantha will cover a little bit on that as we go. But we, again, we just love to be able to see the visual of what coverage requests we have from partners, what coverage we have from reps, and overlaying that data to be able to see, this is where we might have some deficiencies. This is where we are like absolutely covered as much as we want to be. And just going into that customization of being able to add different aspects that are helpful for us. You can see in the map, the rep coverage. We have kind of 3 classifications of reps. Reps who are active, reps who are onboarding, meaning they're going through our training, they're not quite up and ready to get everything, and then reps who are maybe moving or offboarding or on their way out. So looking at coverage and being able to determine the status of our Sharetown representatives and where help is coming, and is really helpful for us to be able to accommodate all of the needs of both our reps and our partners. In addition to just our regular coverage requests, we actually also offer nationwide coverage for a lot of our partners, which means that no matter where it is in the United States, we will accommodate that pickup. If we don't have local reps there, which is primarily really, really rural areas, then we have the ability to track and manage where those what we call third-party pickups, because we will hire third parties to facilitate those returns in those rural areas where we don't have representatives. But this is just a visual of that. Again, this darker gray cover of, we can take the data of pickups that we're sending to third parties and plot it on a map so that we can see visually which rep is the closest, where would we maybe need to bring someone else on. So these are just some use cases that I have loved about Felt with regards to sales, but I'm going to kind of just turn the time over to Christina. She'll talk a little bit more about integration, and then we'll have Samantha follow up with some more in-depth use cases for the map as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Michelle. Hi, everyone. I'm Christina. I'm the product manager here at Sharetown. I'm focused on our partners and our internal users, so our sales managers. My fiance is really big in this GIS space, and he knew we were looking for a new mapping provider. So he sent me a felt map, excuse me, and it was so easy to use. Like I was like, am I in? I'm already in. Like, I'm already doing it. I'm already using the map. I couldn't believe it. So immediately I went to my Google Sheets, and I was already pulling some of our rep data into the Google Sheet for other purposes. So with the upload anything feature, I immediately tried to upload anything, and it worked. So that was, I mean, the low barrier to entry was huge, and the ease of use, huge. All the things that Michelle mentioned that were issues with our previous provider felt just polar opposite. It was so easy to use, I couldn't believe it. So just kind of sharing the map links around, asking people like, is this what you want to see? Is this what you want to see? We're able to prototype really quickly, which is also really great. So what we've been doing thus far is I'm kind of, I guess, working on the prototype layers with Michelle and with Sam and other people on the team. And then as we are fine tuning what we want to see on the map, what colors we want, what we want in our pop-ups, what we don't want in our pop-ups, all those things. I'm kind of working with the business team to figure out all of those details, and then working with our dev team to implement those changes through our integration. So I've been doing updates manually thus far, but we're pretty far into our integration to get our main map layers added each day, refreshed each morning, so that everybody has up-to-date information to look at, because the sales managers need to see up-to-date data. It's not helpful if they're seeing stuff that's from the previous day or prior. So that is what we're doing with the integration, and again, the ability to prototype super fast. That's been awesome. Another thing that's really great, Michelle is managing the sales team. Sam is on the recruiting team, so there are definitely different use cases and different needs just between those two teams. So one example of kind of a quick little change we were able to make is with that pop-up. Initially, I was thinking it would be helpful to provide all of this helpful information to our sales managers. The sales managers in turn said, well, we already know all that information, or not all of it, but a lot of what I was putting in there, they already know it, so they don't need to see it. So it was really awesome to be able to have that conversation, delete what they didn't want to see, and then bam, like immediately we had our new map. But Sam had the opposite request. She said, can you put that information back in the pop-up? I really need to see it. So we're actually able to do both. Now I know that Sam needs something completely different for her maps. We have multiple maps going in the integration. So we're able to give the sales managers what they need and Sam what she needs. But while still doing it all really quickly and just on the fly, like jump on a call, change the layers, send it over to dev, and it's kind of been working like that. And it's really, really helpful, really quick, really easy. Another thing that I just want to call out really quick is when I do these updates, I just think it's really cool that you can duplicate a layer quickly and then just completely change it. So if we, in this case, we're showing these groups active onboarding and offboarding, but I could just take this layer, duplicate it, and show a completely different view using the same data set. And it's really quick to do that. So that's been one of my favorite things. You know, I'll get a Slack ping from somebody saying, hey, is there any chance that maybe the map could do this? And I will just duplicate a map or a layer and then change things around, send it over and say like this, and they'll say yes or no, and we'll take it from there. So as a product manager, that is very awesome. I love being able to move quickly and make changes quickly and actually have a visual that I can hand over to dev. And this is exactly what it needs to be delivered. So I think, Sam, do you want to maybe run through your recruiting scenario? We're going to show, we're going to show Sam's process when she's reviewing applications, because Sam has her own process to add her own data to the map, which is also wonderful. She is self-sufficient. And as, as she's giving me feedback on what she needs to see on her map, we're also going to be working towards an integration with, some of the data that she's using. So Sam and I have been working really closely over the last week to try and figure out what she needs and what we can automate to get her doing things quickly and getting her data into build. So Sam.
Perfect. Thank you.
You got it.
Okay, so as the recruiting manager, one of the things that I'm doing is trying to, like Michelle said earlier, find where we could use more reps based on our coverage, our existing rep network, where we can expand our coverage in different places. So I am looking at the map a little bit differently than the sales managers, but Felt makes it so much easier for me to be able to do that without disrupting their workflow, which I love. We have an example of an application, let's just say, that comes in, and I'm going to screen it and see if we could use a rep in that area. With Felt, we can use pinpoint geographic data to put that application on the map exactly where it is by the address, which is so cool. So I can look at that application, I can open that rep layer and see where it comes in compared to where those reps currently are. And then, like Christina said, we can open then the rep coverage. I can see that this application falls outside of rep coverage. So that tells me that probably this will be a good spot for somebody. We can open up the partner coverage for that area and say, okay, we're not quite there yet with our coverage in that area. So we could expand coverage here. We can take a look at our third-party pickups in the area and open that layer and see that around where that application is, we are having third-party pickups. And it would be a lot better for us if we had a rep that could pick those things up. So being able to look at these layers simultaneously or one at a time is super helpful when trying to decide where to recruit or where we can add reps. We can also take a look by mileage. How far is the application from where those pickups came in? How far are they from other reps? Somebody have a question?
Hi, it's probably a dumb question, but
No such thing.
Well, you haven't heard the question yet, but so this is very interesting. With my organization, we often have, if I see this correctly, overlapping coverage, and then there are coverage areas that are not attended to. Is that a challenge for your organization? It's not maybe directly related to Felt, or maybe it is, in terms of sort of evenly or effectively applying your agents to all of the geographic areas that you serve. Does that make, I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what I was wondering.
It definitely is helpful to be able to see this way so that we can recruit. We do targeted recruiting, and we can use the felt map to see where we are in need of extra coverage or more coverage or expanding coverage or more reps. So yes, this is super helpful. We can target our recruiting efforts in those specific areas, just utilizing that data. Did
And
that answer?
I'll maybe
Yeah,
add
it
to
does.
that. Yeah, I
Okay.
can add
It
to that
does.
a little
It
bit
does.
too, if you'd like. From a sales perspective, it's really helpful for us to take a step back and maybe look at past data. Felt will allow us to be able to say, hey, here's a small geographic area. Where's every single pickup request that we got in that area? We're always trying to maximize productivity and reduce long drives as possible. So if we have an area where we might have 7 reps, we can go back and look at a month or 2 or 3 months of data set history of like, where did those pickups actually come in, and be able to pinpoint this one rep was going 50 miles in this one direction for certain things, and then also going 50 miles in this direction. So being able to see it on a broader scope has allowed us to kind of target, hey, this is exactly where we want a new rep to come on, or exactly what we can anticipate telling a new rep to expect. So kind of, at least where my mind went with your question, it allows us to become a lot more efficient, to be able to just look at, if we know where all of our pickup requests are coming in and we know where all of our reps are, we can kind of estimate how many requests we need to send to each individual rep and maximize their time and efforts that way, so that we can geographically keep their pickups in the same area, as opposed to sending them all over the place in different directions. I'm not sure if that answers your question either, but that's
No, it does, and I think that was actually the piece of the puzzle that I wondered is, we like currently we see layers of sorry, I said agent, but I guess it's rep coverage, but then what you're saying is the historic pickup or delivery locations can be another layer, so that visually you can kind of see the best kind of intersection of coverage and
right.
actual work done.
Right.
And on the flip side, sorry, Michelle, but we can see our impact on coverage then. Instead, we can see it historically, but then moving forward, we can say, okay, well, 2 months ago, we didn't have any of this open. Now here we are, we have, so it's actually really good from a recruiting and maybe a sales point of view, to be able to see the impact that we've had in our efforts to open that coverage. Sorry, Michelle.
No, it's quite all right. Yeah, just what Sam was saying, these 3 gray zip codes, this is showing what Sam was looking at, where we had hired third-party pickups. We don't have on this map a display of where we have accommodated everyone else's pickups, but yes, to your question, that would be an extra layer that we can add and put on there, just to look and see where we are sending our representatives, making sure that their routes are super efficient. And it helps, again, with Sam's recruiting efforts of, we have this cluster of locations where we send this one rep, and then we have this one like kind of off in a totally different direction. That would be a recruiting effort for us to make sure that we can just hone in that current rep's routes to something that makes more sense, and focus on finding someone else who can accommodate something that's a little more off the chart from where we want him to go.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Renee. As a reminder, if you have some questions for the Sharetown team, please add them to our map that is in the chat, and then we will answer all the questions right after the presentation.
Awesome.
I mean, I
Anything
think
else,
that pretty much covers what we're doing, at least from a recruiting point of view. Right there, that's my use case, or one of them, for and why I love Felt so much. And we mentioned that we could also see what has come in, or what there is a layer. I think we have that, Christina, on other maps that we use, but where we can actually see the pickups that we have had come in. So we can take a look and know that here's where we are seeing pickups, so that we can make sure that we have coverage for that area from a recruiting standpoint. So I love the Felt map, and I ask Christina every day for new things. And I
But
love
it's
that
easy.
yeah, if I want to see something, I love that I can actually just throw it on a spreadsheet, put it on the map, and just look at it for 5 minutes even and say, okay, this is helpful. So I love that about it. I'm really excited about using it for sure.
Yeah, that the visual piece was huge for me as well. Sharetown, there's a lot of moving pieces behind the scenes, and there's just a lot to learn when you first start. So the second I saw a map with the use case that somebody had been describing to me for so long, I was like, oh my gosh, that's what you mean. Like, it's just so clear. And it's just, yeah, it's a different level of understanding that I didn't have before, not having the visual piece. So I'm super pumped that we found Felt. I love it.
Me too.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle, Christina, and Samantha. This was really great presentation. Let's take a look if we have some questions here on the map. As a reminder, please feel free to type, or you can even comment on the map and we'll answer all the questions. It's just an easier way for us to coordinate and not lose any questions in the Zoom chat. But yeah, let's see what we got here. First of all, can you, someone is asking, can you please show how a rep would use your map? Like, what would be just a quick individual use case? I guess that's a question. Christina, would you be open to take this?
Sure. Yeah. And I think, Michelle, were you gonna maybe mention something?
Yeah, if you'd like me to, I can
Sure.
take this.
That'd be awesome.
How an individual representative of ours would use Felt, an example would be that we could show them all of their existing pickups. We could show them how it's within their coverage radius, but it also helps us to allow them to track and monitor their pickup requests so that they can maintain efficiency. So if you have 3 that are close together and then 1 that's somewhere else, it just allows the rep to visually see, okay, this is where I need to head. How much time do I need to plan to get to those? These are really close together, so I can do back-to-back-to-back pickups, as opposed to other locations that are in the opposite direction would likely be accommodated in the afternoon as opposed to the morning or on a different day altogether. So that's likely the biggest use case that we would have for our individual representatives using the Felt map.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you so much. Let me see. If the rep is unavailable, sick, broken truck, or anything like that, do you use Felt to help reallocate it to a different rep? Oh, I love this question.
Yeah, I mean, we can. So usually in our use case, we have overlapping coverage. So it accommodates for reps who are sick or out of town. But we do, in extreme circumstances when we might need to pull in reps who are outside of that coverage, it does give us a really good visual of, well, who is the closest? Who is the next available rep? What does their coverage look like? How far outside of that would they maybe need to travel to accommodate this certain pickup? So yes, we do have, that's really helpful as well, how we showed on our rep layers the statuses. We had onboarding, offboarding, and active reps. We could also put statuses for this rep's on vacation. So that rep might be colored a different color so that we know for the next 2 weeks they're not an available option, but following that vacation time, we would be able to utilize them again. So a lot of customization. Basically, whatever we need to do, Felt can accommodate it. It just depends on how we want to see it and choose to display it on a map.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And another question here is, do your partners provide data sets of their coverage? What is the data format? Yeah, just curious about, I think this is just generally about data formats that you work with, or yeah, the way you're kind of collaborating with customers here.
Yeah, so this is particularly pertinent when we're onboarding a new partner. So a partner would come, they're interested in Sharetown services. How would we work together? What does that look like? Usually we would just ask them, what kind of service levels are you looking for from Sharetown? They're able to take their past customer data. They're usually processing returns on their own before they start utilizing Sharetown. So they have already accumulated all of that. And we usually just take that on a zip code level. Like if they have information about their past month or 3 months of returns, where those locations are, They would provide that usually in, sometimes they could give us exact addresses, but usually it's just they were in this zip code. We can take that data, we can plot it on a map, we can overlay our rep coverage networks, we can overlay existing partner coverage networks to kind of see, do we have adequate coverage here, and do we maybe need to do some recruiting efforts to bring on that new partner?
Perfect. I think the last question is about IC distancing. Some folks are interested in just the way you are creating this polygons for your coverage areas.
Yeah, Christina, do you want to answer that, or would you like
Yeah,
me to?
Sure. No, I can. We use a third-party provider to generate the ISO distance polygons for each rep. And basically that just gives us the geometry shape and the points for the polygon shape. And then we basically upload that to Felt and the polygons appear. So it's really great.
Awesome. Well, with that, I just want to since we have some time left, I want to ask anyone who has a question to just unmute. I know that we went through our questions on the map, but have plenty of time if folks have any additional questions about Felt or managing operations in Felt. Really happy to answer any questions. Renee.
As a software engineer, not working at Felt, but I've been working with maps and GIS for 20 years. I'm curious if, I guess the question is like, there's lessons learned, always, if we're curious. What have you learned, like the Felt, I guess the Felt company or organization and maybe users, like, are there things that we're learning about, you know, the intersection between business data, geography, and how these APIs work that, yeah, that's worth sharing?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of I guess our integration is not it's not all that complicated. I mean, we're just sending the same data that I have in my spreadsheets to Felt directly. But we are definitely learning as we go. The Felt team's been awesome. As we have had questions come up, they're happy to jump on a call, talk to us on Slack. So yeah, it's been great thus far with our integration. It's interesting from my perspective, the things that I'm doing with the Google Sheets to basically update the map every day. It's the same as the API in a way, but it's a little bit different. One example I can give you is when we have in our other map, we have a coverage networks layer, and there are multiple different coverage networks within that single group. So in my process, I will download 5 different Google Sheets and then zip them together and upload one zip file, and then it will display those layers within this group, which is awesome. And then kind of doing the same thing through the API to achieve the same results. That was something that kind of, I guess, was a learning, because I didn't realize that we could kind of do the same thing to get the same result, if that makes sense. It may not, but yeah, I've been learning along the way, that's for sure. And yeah, I don't know if there's anything more specific you're wondering about.
Actually, that's kind of what I wasn't wondering that, but that's interesting. So and I'm a new user to Felt, so I was only kind of playing at the edges, but so you can upload a zip file with Google Sheet with spreadsheets, or the API integration probably has, well, I would guess the advantage of being a little bit more real time and dynamic, and it's one less step to upload.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's less work for me as well, which I'm very excited about. But one thing I can mention, I do dabble with this tool called API Connector. So before our team was doing anything with our, like, you know, dev team to Sharetown to Felt, I was kind of dabbling with pulling data from Sharetown into my sheet. And then I think a couple times I did push layers to Felt. Then I was hands off and I said, you guys are the experts. You can take this over. But API Connector, I would recommend that if maybe you have experience with APIs, and that might be like a kind of a step one to playing around with the API and getting your layers up to date. Yeah, that's an option I should recommend.
Nora, would you like, since you've been working with so many customers who are using the API, would you like to add any like interesting use cases to share?
Yeah, I'm happy to share, and I think Sharetown is doing an awesome job implementing the API so far. And this is something that's top of our roadmap too. And it's for the reason of Renee, back to your original question, like what are we seeing kind of across the board is that the API can be a really powerful option for programmatically updating your maps. You know, like the Sharetown team or Christina is servicing different teams, different departments. A ton of people are viewing the maps, and so it needs to be updated, but that's a manual process if not done with the API. So it's just such a powerful option for business teams and especially for operations teams. And the second thing that we're learning is like this need for, and it's related to the API, but you know, like what we're calling live data, which is, you know, something that is really close to being, you know, released and felt, is the ability to just keep a layer refreshed with new underlying data on a regular cadence. So it's almost like you configure it once and then from then on, it's just working and it's connected to your data source, your source of truth. And so that's what we're seeing is like the power of basically connecting it to your source of truth, wherever that may be, whether it's Google Sheets or even like a database.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. That's a great answer to a very vague question.
Any more questions? Please just unmute yourself and ask the question. We have some time to answer. Okay,
Must have
well,
done such a great job at explaining every detail. So we're just super fast over here, I guess.
100%. I love the map, and I think it's really interesting. I haven't seen a lot of recruiting use cases, so I think you know, with sales territories, it's really insightful. But also, I think recruiting one of the first use cases for us. So really was really excited to see it. Okay, well, with that, let me share. Oh, we have a question from Renee. Let me stop for a second. And yeah, Renee.
Okay, I don't want to be that guy, but I do have actually a question, or maybe it's a suggestion or an idea. And actually, Anna, I think Anna, you alluded to it because I was thinking this while the other people were talking. If the question is addressing, or if the challenge is addressing areas that are not served by reps, would it be possible to create kind of like a public-facing view of these areas that people, kind of like an Uber for reps in areas that are underserved, such that you know, somebody could potentially, instead of looking for them, they could find you? Or is that a silly idea? I don't know. I don't know your business, so I'm just talking too much.
No, that's actually really interesting. We haven't thought about it that way. We're established enough now that again, it's really just the super remote places that we have more issues with. And sometimes we utilize third party because we only get one request a month. So it's not necessarily worth bringing on somebody who can't get the volume that we need. But as our partner network grows, you know, those continue to become more and more in those remote places. And that's really what we're trying to hone in on, is where is the most applicable remote location next to onboard based on that. But no, that's actually a really interesting idea. I've never thought about it that way. So that's not a use case that we experience today, but it's an interesting thought for sure.
Nora, do you have anything to add here?
Yeah, I actually have a question for the Sharetown team. I think it might be for Christina, but Michelle and Samantha, of course, jump in. Christina, you were I think the first person to kind of start in Felt, and I'm sure a lot of people on this call may be completely new to Felt. They may be making their first map. So I'd love to learn more from you about like when was it at the time where you were like, I'm gonna now share this with the team? And then what was that process of inviting the team to the felt map and kind of sharing that out? Can you speak a little bit more to that initial getting started phase?
Yeah, for sure. So first things first, this actually, doing this integration at the time or when we found Felt, it wasn't necessarily on our roadmap. Finding the new mapping provider, it just like, we knew that we needed something, but we didn't know when it was going to happen. And we hadn't found a replacement yet. So I wasn't really sure if it was the right time to really bring it up, but I'm glad that I did. But I basically sent a map link to Gabe and I said, hey, check this out. He said, this is awesome. Send it to Michelle, send it to somebody else. So we just sent a link, and I think I maybe sent 2 links. And then from there, I started getting Slack pings like, add me to Felt, and everybody wanted in. So I think the adoption rate probably was very, I don't know which direction it's up, but it was really, people were joining really, really quickly, giving feedback really quickly. And I think within, I don't know how long, but probably within just a few weeks, we had most of the business team on Felt for looking at different things. And yeah, it was really, really quick to get everybody on board.